Hello, Skyliners. Welcome back to Super-Duperville, episode 36. An industrious adventure awaits. I'm Mike of Dragon Rider Gaming. Thank you very much for joining me. And really quick, today we have a single solitary goal, and that is to start the layout for Industryland. And that's what we're going to do, and we are going to jump right into it, no messing around. Okay, so this is going to go really fast. I have it on 3 times speed for the whole episode. So we're going to start out by eliminating all the roads in the southern area because I want to put in a road that has a rail line built into it. We'll get back to that, but starting off here, what I'm doing is I'm using the road that's coming out of Super-Duper Bay to establish basically a straight line, and I just did a test there to make sure that it kind of aligns with the edge of our territory, and it is very parallel to that bottom territorial edge, you know what I mean? So what I've decided to do is go out and create a center point for Kaleidoscopia, which is going to be the city that we're building next to Super-Duper Bay here. And the reason I do that is because directly off of the northern point of that center point, it's going to drive up and it's going to have a road that comes out the top eventually. And so I wanted to make sure that that is aligned with what we're going to do for Industryland, an entrance into there, so that the intersection is lined up with everything there. So I just redrew the road that we had coming out of the south part of Super-Duper Bay, and the reason I did that is because I wanted to make sure that that road as well has an intersection, and it allows the intersections to be put in the proper locations when we build the actual highway. So we're kind of doing this backwards. Instead of doing the highway first, we're going and doing the highway second or third. So now we're into Industryland. We're actually putting this in, and what I'm doing here is I'm doing 40 unit increments, and what we're going to do is we're going to do 40 by 40 square sections throughout the entire zone, or city I should say. The overall length of this is 320 and the height is 120, so it's 320 by 120. And you'll see here as we start putting in these legs, and I'm just using the dirt road, which is the cheapest road that's available, just to draw this in as cheaply as possible in case I made mistakes or something like that, or I wanted to go back and change it. It wasn't that expensive to replace these roads. The center section there has an 80 unit area. I go ahead and draw in the 40 unit road here on this section and then just do some angles for these other 2 roads. And I think it ties it in nice with the river. And it allows us to start building up that area. We'll come back to that. The reason I drew that all in is to get this in place. So I established a center point of the highway there by going 40 units up from the top of Kaleidoscopia and then taking 40 units into Industryland. So this little hook part here is the center point of the highway. To build the highway, what I've decided to do is use parallel road tool, and you see I added 2 sections there, and the first section is going to be the train tracks, and I put those at 18 units and then 6 units high, so the train tracks are going to ride above where the road is at, and then the other leg of the road I put at 36 units. So what we did here is we just ran it up to the same northeast connector point, junction if you will. And now we're going to build the railroad track. We're going to take the railroad track through the center of this intersection. And this is the only intersection that we're going to actually put the railroad track above the intersection. So I got Anarchy on just to put it in place and get it going. But I get this level, I make sure that it's high enough, but not too high, but high enough that semis can clear it, you know what I mean? And what I'm planning to do, I decided instead of doing a Y junction, which really wouldn't go in place very well, because the Eastern Train Hub is so close to this intersection, I couldn't really get a proper Y junction in there for the westbound trains coming out of the Eastern Train Hub. So instead, I put in what I call a shepherd's hook. It's going to look like a question mark once I get it in place here, but It's just a simple little ramp that I'm increasing the increments in height every step of the way, and it just gives a nice gradual slope going up. This leg that I have coming in from the westbound side for eastbound trains, I didn't need to put those curves in it. I may actually even go back and change that out and make it a little straighter. It doesn't really necessarily have to have that, but... And then it was just a matter, since I have both of those junctioning in there, it's just a matter of tying this in and then going back and adjusting all the heights. And the purpose of that I don't go over highways typically is because it takes a lot for a train to pull all its cargo going uphill. And I know this is a game and it's not totally realistic, but where I can, why not try to do some realism, right? I mean, why not to have a little bit of semblance of reality so that things function and operate. You know, I could do a totally steep incline and the train will still drive up it. You know what I mean? So here I'd go back and I make sure that all the rail lines have a nice slope to them. They're not overly sharp or anything like that. I play around with that, and then I believe I go down the line here and I start looking like, even this hill here, this is far too steep in my opinion. So I just use the Move It mod. I use the marquee selection, double click on nodes, and I'm just going through and just marquee selecting the different nodes that I want to adjust, and I'm just adjusting them down so that the rail line has a nice gradual slope throughout the entire length of the road. So even little dips like this, you can raise them up, raise other areas down, and then we'll go back later and we'll fix the landscape at a later time. So even spots like this, there's no reason for it to dip down there when it comes right back up, or have it have such a sharp decline. You can have a nice gradual slope going down, and then it'll clean up. It'll look nice. Now areas like this, something to point out, I don't know if you noticed there was a T marker for the road, but there was not a T marker for the rail line. So you got to be careful if you're using the parallel road tool, when you stop and start, if you have something like this that you have the rail line included, you have to go back and repair the rail line manually and look for it very closely, or else you might miss it. This bridge section I wasn't really happy with, so I just decided to delete the whole thing instead of trying to mess around with it, and just put in a whole new bridge section. I actually got really lucky here that it worked out to 74 units across, and that bridge plopped direct center in the river. That was very lucky to have happen. The rail line, not so much. It's pretty funky, so I had to play around with this a little bit to get it to fix right. So now all the roads are repaired. I could actually have started the game up there, but I'm going to put in intersections. And the intersection that I chose to use, we're going to put 4 of them in here, is Timbo's small DCMI interchange. And that's what it looks like. It's pretty cool. And what I do here is I make sure that the leg of the attaching road, which I want to make sure I keep the intersection very straight comparatively to it, I made sure that the leg of the road stuck up far enough that I could attach the intersection to the road, and then it's just a matter of connecting up the highway. 2 things involving this. The rail line is going to go underneath that intersection in the middle. So you see how some of the roads attach in straight and others do not. I have to move one, or either the northern part or the southern part of the intersection to make the whole thing work. This first one, actually the entire intersection was a little bit high. I had to move the whole thing down. But the remaining ones going forward will just have the one side that has to be shifted downward. So what I do, since we're only 6 units above to start with on the rail line, all I do is I go out 12 units, drop it down to 2, and then drop it down to 0 for the middle, bring back up to 2, and then bring it back up to 6 for the other side there. So nice and easy, pretty easy to snap it all together there. And then just a matter of moving things around to make sure it all functions properly and works together right. Now in the center here underneath, what I do for all the intersections, you won't see the other ones going forward, but I drop the road on either side of the rail line down, and then I just remove the 2 pillars that are in place there. So that looks pretty smooth. I go back to this one and I go through and clean it all up with a bunch of adjusting the roads and all this kind of stuff. So this is the second, and that's the end of the first one. Here's the second one for the northern entrance into Super-Duper Bay. And I tried to position these strategically so that when we do Roundabout Berg, that the entrances are spaced out enough, you know what I mean? Spaced around the entire area that it's convenient for it. So couldn't go at a perfect 90-degree angle here, so had to just adjust it a little bit. But it worked out really well, I think. I was pretty happy with how this tied in. So that's it for the northern bound one. I go back and finish everything here. There you go. That one's done. Just doing a little time lapse there for these things. So same entrance here. For this one, I actually used the road coming out of Industryland to line it up. Voila, that one's done. And finally, oh, I do a little change here on the bridge. I forgot about that. And finally, the last little section here is going to be on the, what is that? The western side of Industryland, the southwest side of Industryland, I guess. And just like that, magic of time, that one's done. Next up, we are going to now extend the highway. We did originally have this going around the south side of the mountain, but using the same parallel road tool effect and just forcing it to form a tunnel, we're going to be able to take this thing straight through the mountain. A little trick here, though, is when you drive this underground, you either have to use Move It Mod and Anarchy to manually force it to go lower, but if you go all the way through and you look at how it's how it has little funky angles there, if you just use the Alt-H or level thing included in Move It Mod, makes it a lot easier to just reattach this, fix little exits and entrances like this as needed. And just like that, we got the entrance fairly level. Now, the rail line doesn't line up properly for going into a tunnel, so I had to make sure that I leveled it out once we got this back in place and reattach all the roads and all that kind of good stuff. You see how it's sticking up out of the ground there? I decided to just make this level going into the mountain, and then I could just make the road as well. Just kind of blend in. Worked out very nicely, I think. I played with this intersection a little bit more. I go back and do this off camera to most all the intersections, adjust them up and down so that there's not super sharp angles. There you go. Pretty nice look going in there, I think. This one I go back and clean up the landscape issues here, but I wanted to make sure that the exit was fixed up first. Again, nice. Everything's nice and even coming out. Had a disconnected highway here underground we had to put back in place. Forgot that I had the tunnel mode on. And finally, we're going to attach this up to the southwest junction. Pretty simple, pretty easy. finally, we're going to go through and clean up the rail line on this side with the sharp height adjustments and such. Then there's some other spots like this that I decided to move the rail line down a little bit. Now the key is going to be trying to link this into and create the cargo and passenger ports for Industryland coming off of this rail line somewhere along here, as well as for Super-Duper Bay. Be interesting. I'm going to do that next episode. Now, with the last minute touches in place, we're going to get the game going. Finally! And now it's time to fix the landscape. So what I use is I just use the sloping tool. And as I'm going along the road here, I'm not holding the mouse down. I'm actually just rapidly clicking the mouse when I get to some areas that need to be corrected. And you see I just move the size of the tool up large enough that it can cover both sides of the highway, but put the brush strength way down. Like, I still have it really large in this area. I have to adjust it downward because it's just affecting far too much. So you do a smaller brush size, can affect a smaller area. Bump it back up, go right back down the highway. Moving along. So yeah, just rapidly click, even areas like this. And what it does when you click on a specific spot, it's just adjusting the area right around that. If you hold your mouse down, it's going to continue to push the land outward, and it's going to pull the land in the direction that you move your mouse. So it's a little tricky. Next up, we're going to put the roads in place. So we start out with the 6-lane two-way road for the two main legs coming in off the intersections. Then we move to a 4-lane two-way road with median for these two little sections here. And the reason we only put them there is because for our public transport in this area, we're going to use trolleys. And so trolleys have a 4-lane two-way road with a trolley line where we finished our academic year, and we lost our prestigious status. We'll go back and fix that. We'll tackle that next time, or the time after that, or something. I got other things on my mind here. So as you see, I put kind of a southern eastern west loop, and here's a northern east-west loop for the trolley line to travel along. And I say above ground because below ground we're going to have metro system as well. So we'll have a loop on the left and a loop on the right for a metro system that goes underneath the city to transport people around. Finally, we put in the small 4-lane, is it a small 4-lane road? I think it is. It's a 4-lane two-way road. It's the one that we've used in the past that doesn't allow parking on it. So there we go. Bada boom, bada bing. Take out these little extra nodes on the side that we use for markers. Might have saw just a glimpse of the road there coming out of Spaghetti Hills. We will link that in the near future. Next up, we're going to fix the bridges here. And what I do is I just select the bridge sections, raise the heights to what I thought was a pretty decent level, and it turns out they were all the same level. I have no idea how I lucked out like that. That was amazing. So I got them all the same level. Go back and add the bridge sections in, and this too worked out spectacularly, that having the bridges go across all ended up with the 4 different bridge sections going across. I was super excited to see something like that work out. That doesn't happen to me often. But then it was just a matter of going through and doing some landscape fixes here, raising up the roads along the water edge, because this is an industrial area. We're not looking at waterfront property. We're not looking at doing anything special. All we need is functional ability to build as many buildings as we can in the area that'll serve the purpose of industry. So now we've got the roads pretty close to the right height. We'll go back with our landscaping tool, adjust some additional areas. Add some trees in for the north section so we can add some forestry. Bada boom, bada bing. And ladies and gentlemen, Industryland. Alright, so that's going to do it for this episode. That took a lot to get done in 20 minutes. I had to cut some stuff even. But anyway, we got our industry area in place here. And on the left side of the screen, against the mountains here, we got some ore that we can set up an industry for that. Just inside of there, some fertile land. Then on the north end that we're coming around to here, we got some trees and forestry area that we can do. And then some oil down by the riverbed on the southern portion. So if you like what you're seeing, if you like this episode, drop a like and a comment. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. And until next episode, this is Mike of Dragon Rider Gaming. I thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye, everybody.